Hello everyone, welcome to Naoto's Hydra tutorial. This is intended to be introductory, so you don't need to know how to code. You should be able to type though, but no programming language like specific skill. We will try to understand it with simple examples. And the reason, just motivation for me was that, I was going through analytics and I saw that tutorials have a lot of demand. Although I never properly filmed introductory tutorial, there is some recordings of the workshop I gave online, for example, on the floor, but that was not meant to be this setup. So I'm trying, and I'll try to keep it short. I don't know how far I will go in the first video, but if you like it, if I get some reactions, I might record the second one, third one, and I can point to the advanced ones that I already have in the playlist. You can probably find it where? This here, there. You'll find it. But yeah, for this video, you don't need to know how to code, basically. And what else? Okay, let's just jump in. So what is in the background is already showing some kind of sketch, and this is the best way to start Hydra. So now I'm tiny. And hello, I'm here. This is not part of Hydra, this is part of the recording, OBS and things, so don't panic if you don't see small yourself in the corner. I have this link in the description directly to Hydra. The link is hydra.ojak.xyz, and you might see different sketch when you arrive on this page. And okay, I'm gonna just reload it. It's gonna show something like this. And what happens, wait a second, I'm gonna just adjust it so that it's fitting here. All right, so there's already some kind of description here, but it's if you're interested, you can probably go to some of the links, and you might want to learn it by yourself, but also some of you might want to just follow the video, and then this video is for you. So what I'm going to do, not going to read this. I contributed some of this, but let's just skip it. This just cross button, and probably you see some other sketch, or you might see the same one if you're lucky or not. What I'm going to do is just try this button here at the top that says, this kind of cross section thingy, and that loads different sketches or codes of Hydra that generates different video or visual effects, or I try not to say effects, I try to say visuals or code itself, because Hydra is not only about making effects. You can have RGB shift effect, you can have scaling effect and so on, but you have this modulation and more complex techniques. So I try not to say effects. If you see it as effects, that's also fine, but it's more like a conceptual thing. But I try to say functions, codes, that is the Hydra itself. We're not going to make cool effects, but we're making visuals with the code. That's kind of the idea. And anyways, you can go through and you might like something. And if you find something you like, you don't need to know what is happening here, right? But what I suggest is just pick one number, and it says 20. Okay, so what if I make it 10? You can change the number. It won't change anything at this moment with the visuals. So what you would do, there are different ways to do it, and this is very important, how to execute the code, basically. So I have this fresh code that has different number. Now what I'm going to do is I click this button here, the playback button at the top, and this will evaluate the code. I want to change it something different, something more radical. I don't know. It can be also, it's not changing much, so maybe I should check something else, I don't know, maybe this one. What if I do it 1? Oh wow, that's a drastic change. So that's something important number, I would say. What if I make it 2, and then it just goes crazy. And if you feel like it's gone out of control, you can also use this browser back button, because it kind of like loads the history in the browser, the code itself is associated. So that's one thing. And or like if you have like completely like messed it up and then you don't know what to solve, you can just go to another sketch and just try it out again. What if I make it this 0.1? Oh, there's something happening. So this is like one way to like start coding in a way, but it also like gives you like a kind of practice of like, okay, what can I change and how to actually change the code and run it. That's already important to know. What if I do it 1? Okay, that's interesting. And ideally, if you're like coding and like, let's say like, I don't know what you want to do, like you want to craft some images or record some videos, but you also might want to play it on the stage. And if you're playing on the stage, probably you don't want to like go through between like keyboard and mouse or like keyboard and trackpad and so on. So the cooler way to execute is, okay, I'm gonna just like change one of the numbers, and instead of like using this trackpad or mouse to move the cursor here, you can do Control Shift Enter, and that will evaluate what is on the screen. So I'll try it again. Control Shift Enter. By the way, if you're on Mac, like I'm like me, it's not Command Shift Enter, but it's Control Shift Enter. It might change in the future, but the safer way to do it for now is to use Control Shift Enter. Okay. And there are different variations. There's also this Control Enter, which does something different. There's Alt, or on Mac it's Option key. Alt Enter, that does something similar. We might come back to this, but let's not complicate it right now. Let's just like make a habit of using this Control Shift Enter. So you change some numbers. Well, actually, I'm still moving the cursor with the mouse, so it kind of contradicts, but it's okay. Control Shift Enter. And or I can use arrow keys to move it around. And what if I do this? Control Shift Enter. And you're already actually kind of VJing, video jockeying. I don't know if that's what you want to do or not, but this is interesting, like, and also like simple way to engage with the code. So we're not like writing text in a way, but we're already changing the number. And sometimes what happens like accidentally is like, it should be like a number here. So number, comma, it can be like a negative number, or it can be positive, like super big number, super small number, 0.0001. Sometimes you need it. But sometimes you make some mistakes, like this is not a number, -2a is not a number. And if you evaluate, you will see this thing. Some red text at the bottom, it says identifier starts immediately after numeric literal. To be honest, I don't know what it means. You don't have to know, or you might need to know sometimes actually, but this is like an error message. So what is showing here? So this is sometimes informative, sometimes not really, but if you have this, there's some kind of syntax error on the code, and that has to be fixed so that we can run this again. And this is kind of trivial, like if you look this again, okay, -2a, that doesn't sound right, so I should say -2 or -20 or whatever, and then I fixed it. So if you evaluate it again, you don't see this error message again. But sometimes it's kind of tricky, like if you have like this like nested parenthesis inside parenthesis, and then sometimes you might forget to close it completely. Like there's always a pair of parentheses, so if you start the parenthesis, it should be end with the parenthesis, like how you would write in the text, or you might forget. But if you forget in the context of coding, this is actually not good, so that it will say, okay, I'll just change this so that you can see it better. Oh yeah, of course it doesn't work. I messed it up. So okay, let's try it again. So now the background is not well, it's a little bit more visible. Again, it's magenta, red on magenta, so you can't really see it. But you see the text here that has error message. And this kind of like error is a little bit harder to spot because you have the parenthesis and it's not closing, like, but how, and it might be that you want to close it here, but also you want to close it here, or you want to close it here, and so on. This actually gives different visuals, so it might be confusing. Sorry about that. And coding is sometimes really tough, like, because the error message is so hard to understand. But if you don't write syntactically correct code, it will not run. So if you have error and you don't panic, you always can use this back button on the browser. If you're using Control-Shift-Enter to evaluate, it will like save it in the history. So you can just go back until like it is something like you still like and it still works. Only the working code, that one without error, will be saved. So if you go back, then it should be running again, and then you can just change it. And I think it's a nice way to like work with code, because I also make error, and I don't know what people think about me, but I make a lot of errors, and then I'm like, okay, if I'm like performing with the code, I would say like, okay, I'll just give up. I'll just go back, or I'll just like go something simple. I haven't talked about anything about Hydra, but like, for example, this is like super simple version, OSC, parenthesis, dot out, parenthesis, and then do something again. So it's up to you. You want to like go back until like something's working again, or you start with something scratch, whatever you like. Or you want to like save some of the code that you know that works on a text editor or something. For example, like I can just show you, like, I mean, it's very just basically, right? Basically, super basic thing. Oh, I'm showing some of my text, but yeah, you just have to open text editor, and if you like this code, just copy it, or just Command A or Control A and copy it, paste it here, so you have it. And if something's like completely messed up, broken, that okay, now it will not run, it has this error again, you just have to copy this and paste it back. And it's simple, but it works. And then of course you want to save this file so that you can come back to this. And there's no like exactly like a proper way to organize this code. So just try it out, find out what works for you, and that's super important. And find your workflow basically, because the browser is different. You know, like I'm using Firefox, but you might be using Chrome or Edge or Safari. I don't recommend. What I wanted to say is, yeah, you have different different browsers, so you want to experiment with your workflow so that it works for you. And you might want to use Visual Studio Code, or whatever, Sublime, or whatever text editor, but that's really up to you. There's no like answer to it. Okay, so now we had some fun, but like it's not what we expected, right? We want to write code. And what I'm going to do is to basically go to this page. So I'm going to put the link in the description down below, but basically this is the tutorial that I'm going to follow, and it's basically I contributed. It's not all like my material. It's something from Hydra tutorial, from Olivia, from Floor. It's kind of like mixed, and but basically this is what I use for introductory workshops. Now, the second one is, so hello, now duplicated, and you can see a green screen in the background. But basically this is the first example. We're going to use webcam. It's not going to be streamed. It's going to be like only in your computer, so don't freak out if you see yourself on the browser. But basically, I think it's a good practice to write it. So S0 initcam, source S0.out. It's a little bit like verbose, but if you absolutely cannot nail it, just copy and paste. But yeah, so basically like you have this interactive version on the browser, but I really recommend you to open it on the Hydra editor, which is also in the description, hydra.ojag.xyz, where you type this code, try again, Control-Shift-Enter. It's going to ask you, like there's like a little dialogue pop up, which camera do you want to use? Just choose what you want, what works for you. For example, on my Mac, I use my FaceTime camera. You can also remember it if you know that this is always the one that you want to use. And allow. So I'm super stretched, funnily, but I'm here. And okay, that's cool. Now, so we're gonna add some functions to this so that just like filter, but like something to like do something on the image with the function. And the first one is colors. So, and in the next ones, I'm in this interactive versions. This part is skipped. You can keep it in the editor or you can delete it from the editor. It just needs to be run like once. So we did like Control-Shift-Enter. If it's doing once, it's kind of like, how to say, like you're like, it's actually working with the code on Hydra is like working with material. So it's not like you have this old instructions and it goes from the top to the bottom. I mean, it does, but then if you change the code, it actually remembers what was in the before and so on. So if this is gone, it still remembers that, or like if it actually knows that it loaded the webcam, that was what this code is for. So it's already loaded. It's okay if you run it again and again. So I'll just keep it there, but maybe add new lines so that it's not so confusing. And I said colors. So what I'm going to do here, so far I don't have any number in here, right? And in the previous examples we had a lot of numbers. So we want to add some numbers so we can actually play with it, because there's no way to like play with it, although like you can do like S1, but then it's gone because there S0 has the init camera, but S1 is not initialized yet. You don't have to know this yet. So, okay, color. So there are different ways to use Hydra functions. One is you just keep it empty. In this case, it's not doing anything because color has like this default values. So actually, when you say color, it's without anything in the parentheses, it's actually loading color with 1, 1, 1, 1. And I don't know if you're already familiar with like RGB color space, RGBA. If you are familiar with it, great. If not, let's just experiment. Although if you know it already, you might be familiar with like 0 to 255, but in Hydra it's 0 to 1. So everything like a floating point, like 0.5 corresponds roughly to 128 in the 255 space. So for example, I want to say like 0.1. So this corresponds to red. This corresponds to green, blue, and alpha. So let's do Control-Shift-Enter. And what happened is that I'm pale because it's kind of like reducing the red channel. It's something like easier to understand by doing. And for example, you don't have to limit yourself to 0 to 1. You can go crazy. That's the beauty of like working with computers there. Like sometimes like so hard to nail the syntax, but also if you're within the syntax, you can do crazy stuff. For example, like red, what if it's like 2 instead of like 1? So we boost it, and what happens is it's brighter and it's a bit reddish. Well, the background is not so much because it's green color, but I can also boost green. What if I say negative color? That's also possible, and now we're talking. Like this is something really fun. Like it's a Warhol kind of, Andy Warhol kind of effect. And then maybe I don't want the blue channel. Alpha channel is not that interesting because if alpha is 0, then you don't see anything. I'm basically transparent now, which is kind of a weird way to say. And actually the background is black, so that's why we say black. But if the background is white, then it will be white. Basically, we're transparent. I don't know what happens if you do like 2. I think it's cut off. So it's like between 0 to 1. Later in the tutorial, like not today, but probably we're going to see like how to layer images, and then it will be useful. But so far, we just keep it 1. Or, you know, as I said, it's a default value, so you can omit it, and it still works. Great. By the way, if you have just one line of code, so what I said before, Control-Shift-Enter, is to evaluate everything on the editor. So it's evaluating this part. So actually, you see that's highlighting everything. Now, there's also an option to do a Control-Enter, which only evaluates where the cursor is, only the line of the cursor. So it's actually not highlighting this anymore because it's not evaluating. This is only evaluated, and it still works. If I change it, it works with Control-Enter. And there's another variation, which is Option-Enter or Alt-Enter if you're on Windows, Linux. And that is evaluating the block of where the cursor is. And the block means that if you have, okay, so this is kind of choppy now. I want to just run it again. And actually that was a good example because now it's reverted to 2. Why? Because if you do Control-Shift-Enter and if you reload the page, it remembers, but if you do Control-Enter, it doesn't remember. So there are like weird things, but don't freak out. You don't have to know it. I just said it just as a kind of parenthesis, basically. And Alt is, yeah, the block and where it's separated by this empty lines. But we don't need to do it now because we are still working with like very short amount of code. But if we start like develop a lot of code, we might be interested in like looking into like different ways to evaluate it. But so far, just stick to Control-Shift-Enter, or if it's just one line, you can do Control-Enter. Now, so what is this? Colorama. Colorama is a fun one. I'm gonna just like delete the color for now and say, okay, so let's go back to this. So this is just, okay, I'm back to this normal color, although I'm stretched. If I don't want to be stretched, you have the way to change it, but the easiest way is just to adjust your window size. That's a legit way to do it if you don't want to see yourself stretched. But I'm okay with me stretched, so I'll just stay with this. And the next one is Colorama. And again, we can just try it without anything inside. So there's something funny. There's some like little glitches. And I forgot the default value. I think it's like 0.01 or something. Yeah, it is. And if you go a bit bigger, like 0.1 is already like going kind of crazy and it's fun. If you go 1, probably it's like absolutely like going crazy. Like this. Well, if you like it, congratulations, you have fun effect or fun function. And because you see like this is like kind of effect, but also like it's beyond this, you know, it's not, we're just like changing into reddish color or like bluish color, but it's like going somewhere like completely different. And that's why I don't want to say like they're like just filters, but it's like actually actively doing something to the code, to the pixels by the code. And so, yeah, okay, I also do the negative number. That's kind of crazy here, but I don't know, it's kind of modest. This is probably what you like. I don't know what you like. You might want to do some kind of less glitchy images with Hydra, but I don't know. Probably if you landed here, probably you wanted to do some kind of crazy, like glitchy stuff. Okay, so that's the second function. And the cool thing about Hydra is basically the idea came from like modular synthesis. I don't know if you're familiar with like video modular synthesis, but it's the same with the sound modular synth. Basically, you patch something to another one, patch to another one, patch to another one, and then it goes to the output. So the thing is that this function here can be like connected to another one. So for example, like because we already learned color, and we can just change it like this, and I don't want green channel, so I did 101. And if I evaluate it, you have the colorama and color all together. Or I want more blue, so it's doing the colorama function. I'm saying effect, and color effect. Oh my gosh, color function in a sequential way. What's interesting here is that in this case, if you change the order, so I'm going to do like cut and paste here, the result is different. And this is something quite fun, and people might forget that this is possible, that sometimes, I mean, it's not always, with some combination of functions, if you change order, it is exactly the same. And it's normal, like in some cases. But in this case, for example, the result is completely different. And that's something so much fun. Like, you don't have to learn like 100 functions. I don't know if we have 100 functions, but you don't need to know all the functions. But you can just like already like play with the, like what if it's like -1, and like, wow, it's actually super interesting to me, because with this you don't see much of this like colorama, like this like boom effect. Well, effect I said not as a visual effect, but well, as perception. Anyways, and then if you do it like -1, it's just like one dash added. And then it becomes like, this colorama pops up, and it's like already like something super interesting. I mean, the other one's also interesting to me, but like, you get the idea. And what if I change this? Okay, well, because of what I'm wearing, this Estonian color. I mean, it's not the Estonian flag, but okay. So I'm gonna just end here, or should I do another function? Yeah, because if I do another one, so probably in the next video, I will go through like more functions, but this was like an introduction, like basically like how to run code, and kind of like having this expectation that you don't have to learn a lot, like with a little bit of things, with the examples, you can already do some fun stuff. And then we just look into, colorama and color, and with the combination, so many things you can do. So by the next video, like a little assignment for you is to, like change something, and also like find a way you can save it so that you can come back to it. I personally don't save so much. I just work with spontaneous stuff, but also like I have this Hydra book, which is more like advanced tutorial. And this, like, I kind of organized all the code, and also this tutorial itself is interactive tutorial with the code attached to it. So that's a way for me to like organize this, but it's different for you. And just, like try it out, different combination, and see what parameter is fun, and how do you save it so that the next day you want to have this exact same code. How do you run it? Is it from the browser history, or is it from the text editor? It's not so related to Hydra, but I think the way like you work, that really like helps, like having this workflow helps to like also like keep you motivated. Like if you have this, like master it in like one day, and then if you don't have anything left, that's not really fun. Also, like there's another way to save it actually before finishing, is Ctrl+Shift+S, and this will save the code and the screenshot of this, without code though, what's rendered by Hydra, the visuals. It's going to be saved in your download folder or something. And there's also this .js file which contains the code. So that's another way to save it. Actually the easiest way, but although it might not be the easiest way to organize things, because if you do it again and again and again, it will produce a lot of things in the download folder, which I tend to do. So you have to like, choose which you like to, it's like a curating process. But that's another way to do it. So experiment with it, and also if you have questions, feel free to like write them down below, or if you have feedback. Also, if you give me thumbs up, that will be amazing. I will appreciate it. And I hope that I will have motivation to do this as a series. So there will be like video 2, 3, where I explain more functions and maybe more like techniques, like not advanced tutorial kind of technique, but something to kind of, so you can start to craft images or perform. And also like I want to know like what you want to do with Hydra. So please let me know, and also subscribe to my channel. That will be like a motivation for me to continue So thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye!